Good evening, everybody. Sorry about the technical issues that we've just been experiencing. We're getting there. We're fixing this up. Shortly, we'll be able to kickstart. Thank you so much for your patience, guys. This technology thing is new to all of us, I suppose. Sorry, I just want to allow Melly on. I want to promote Melly as a not Natasha, but Melly. Oh, there's Melly. So Melly and Natasha.
Hello, Natasha.
So I'm just going to unmute. Let me unmute Melly. Okay. There we go. Melly,
hello,
over to you.
Hi.
Hello, Melly.
Yes, I'm here.
Great stuff. Thank you, Melly. Over to you.
Excellent stuff. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. Sorry for the technical issues that we had. If you would like to post questions to Mario, please would you post them in the Q&A block, which is down the bottom. If you would like to send a message to somebody, a participant, you can use the participants block and you can send a message there. And thank you very much. If you have any issues, just pop it up. I will help you during the meeting, and then let Mario know, and then we can move from there. Over to you, Mario. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melly. Good evening, everybody. Once again, welcome to our second webinar. Just on the SMME Game Plan Part 2, from surviving to thriving. So, you know, our last one, we pretty much covered the lockdown period, and we're still in lockdown. Nothing's changed. However, the important thing is that we'll know this evening as to where we go from here. So the president should give us some kind of indication as where we go to from here. But my role is not really to see what's going to be happening out there, but to give more to prepare us for beyond the lockdown period. So that's what we'll be pretty much covering a lot tonight. Our focus will be really giving you the tools to be able to assist you with beyond the lockdown period, and giving you the strategies and the game plan to be able to assist you accordingly. Okay, so just in terms of what are we be covering tonight? Pretty much what we're covering tonight. One, we'll be doing a bit of an introduction. Two, a quick recap of session 1. Last week's session, really quick recap. 2, the challenges that we're going to face at day 0, which is, as I mentioned to you last week, day 0 for us is the day that lockdown is lifted, or the soft lockdown is lifted. 4 would be the response to the challenge at day 0. And 5 would be some closing nuggets and questions and answers, just in terms of questions and answers. Excuse me. So that's pretty much what we'll be looking at tonight in our webinar. This is not a new slide for everybody. This was the slide was in our first presentation. So last week we looked at lockdown and pretty much a game plan during lockdown. We're now looking at day 0, and that's where our focus will be, day 0 tonight. And then obviously the third part, we'll be looking at beyond day 0 and giving you the tools beyond day 0 in moving forward. But pretty much now, our focus will be day 0. Okay, so this is also not a new slide. This is pretty much of a recap from previous session. These are the current challenges that we've experienced, and obviously COVID being our #1 challenge right now. And that's where our focus really is sitting right now. Just in terms of last week and some of the things that we looked at in last week's session, primarily being around some of the characteristics as leaders Because right now, you that own your business, you that are running your business, you are the leader in your business right now. So some of the characteristics that you need to be having right now as a leader to lead you through these uncertain times: one being focus, two being agility or flexibility, and three being authenticity. So really focus. Remember, I mentioned focusing the game plan, focusing on your cash flow forecast, focusing on your strategy, amending your strategy to the changes in the situation, focusing on just your game plan at large, your operational budget, focusing right now. The second thing is your agility, being flexible right now, having your plan A, your plan B, your plan C, and your plan D, okay? And the third thing is authenticity. So authenticity right now, being real with yourself, being real with everybody around you, being honest with people around you. I remember I mentioned having staff, managing the uncertainty as a leader. So right now, that's kind of where you need to be. You need to be managing the uncertainty, and there's a lot of uncertainties right now. But as we speak, as we look at day zero, the key thing is to be managing uncertainties beyond lockdown. Because remember, I think one thing we need to understand is that yes, there's been this lockdown. Yes, we've somewhat acclimatized to the lockdown, and we have had a plan during lockdown. Now we're moving into a place of day zero, or when lockdown is lifted, and the world is going to look differently. And so everything will be very different. And it's about right now managing that uncertainty right now, managing the fears right now within yourself as a leader. So very important, that's things just to make mention of. So some of the challenges, we're now moving on to some of the challenges that from a day zero perspective. Some of the challenges, so whilst lockdown may be over now, the world's not going to be the same. The world's not going to be the same as we know it. Things would have changed. One has to understand that there's been a major global culture change. So the reality is that, yes, lockdowns may be lifted at this point in time, but people would still want to will still continue living in bubbles for the next 12 months, in the fear of obtaining the virus. So consumers' values have been reset here. You have to understand that what was important to them historically may no longer be important to them from a consumer buying perspective. So the consumers' buying decisions have now changed. One has to understand that a consumer will look and see, is something essential? Is it no longer essential? Now, the other big challenge that we're going to have at day zero is this thing about cash flow, limited cash flow. Cash flow. Do we have sufficient cash flow to be able to get us through the next phase, and the next phase being as the demand builds within our business? Because things are not going to be the same. You're not going to go back to the same demand that you had prior to lockdown. It's going to be, you will be starting from zero and building up yet again. And for some people, that's what's daunting right now. But the important thing is that we must have a plan. So I purposely put in this picture of this hairpin bend in here. This hairpin bend, guys, day zero will be a hairpin bend for you. For many of us, it's going to be a hairpin bend. Now, in this hairpin bend, the danger would be not responding to the hairpin bend. So we've got this hairpin bend in front of us. The danger will be not responding to the hairpin bend. Now, the hairpin bend there's two things. There's two decisions. Or when we reach this hairpin bend, there's two options here. The decision we have to make is either to slow down or to pick up speed. Now, you'll find that all the petrol heads out there, you'll see that the petrol heads out there, guys, when you are your motor car racing drivers, when they get into a corner, they'll never choose the first one. they'll always go with the second one. They'll always pick up speed, okay? They'll pick up speed and kind of put their wheel in the direction that they want to, in the direction that they ultimately want to get out of that corner, okay? And in doing so, you'll find that those drivers are generally much more successful, okay, as opposed to the drivers that slow down when they get to that corner. Now, guys, I'm not advocating for you to be trying this. You know, if you're not an experienced driver, but yeah, some very importantly is what is seen is that guys generally motor car drivers, when they get to this point or to a sharp bend, they will often speed up. Now, what you'll probably find is that your counterparts and your competitors right now will be doing number one. They'll all opt for number one because this is going to be new and foreign to them. Okay, bearing in mind we're all on the same equal plane right now because we're in lockdown. But the thing that's going to differentiate you from your competition beyond lockdown is how you react to day zero, whether you're going to slow down or whether you're going to pick up speed on that corner. And right now, what we really need to be doing, guys, is starting to set the game plan in place to allow us to help us pick up speed on that hairpin bend so that we can get out the hairpin bend quicker and not remain stuck in that hairpin bend. Okay? The next thing that we need to understand is that we need to have a response to this new norm. So yes, we're going to have this hairpin bend in front of us. The one great thing about us as South Africans is that we are resilient. South Africans are one of the most resilient people in the world. You know, and we all are known for sometimes starting from scratch and starting over again. You know, and I just think of myself. ELO Consulting is now 8 years old. Prior to ELO Consulting, I kind of had a senior management position, and I had to start from scratch. And it's really one of the things is perseverance and resilience that really get you through the time. Now, one of the other things in terms of our response for this new norm is looking at cost cutting. And last week we spoke about cost cutting and cutting to the bare minimum. But the other side to it, and I've put a seesaw here purposely because, you know, there's the cost cutting side, and we can all lean towards the cost cutting side. But there's also the innovation side and working that we begin to become innovative. We begin to be innovative, and that we then move forward and build using this innovation. Now, the thing is, right now, we can spend our times creating, you know, we can spend our times just dealing in the present and dealing with whatever's around us, and it just seems so bleak. Or we can spend time really creating our future right now. You know, that's the important thing. We should be spending all our time right now as business owners creating our future. Now, in creating our future, one of the things we need to begin doing now is understanding our customer needs in terms of going forward. You know, what are our customer needs? What is our, you know, we need to be obsessing in terms of the value that your customer wants to see going forward. Now, Michael Porter, in one of his theories, has said in order to have a competitive advantage, there's three things you need to have in your business: cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. What do I mean by this, guys? So the first thing, cost leadership, yes, is about being the most efficient and effective in terms of as compared to your competitors right now. So very importantly, you know, so minimizing and fixed costs is a buzzword right now. So it's about minimizing your fixed costs so that you can be most efficient and effective going forward. The second thing is differentiation. So as we understand our new customer needs, we begin to differentiate ourselves from our competitors. As we begin to prepare for this new norm, we are differentiating ourselves because why? We would be at a competitive edge against our competition. And thirdly, it's about focus. we need to be focusing right now. So I've just come off a webinar just before this. And one of the things they mentioned was that we should be looking at creating a business continuity plan, okay? In our business continuity plan, one of the things that we need to be looking at is skeleton staff. So as things begin to normalize, so as our businesses begin to build again, we can't start off with having full staff starting off with us again. No, we start off with skeleton staff, and then you begin to build, okay? You begin to build as the demand builds, okay? That's the first thing. Secondly, we need to be looking, you need to be focusing on selling. If you in selling of product or goods as opposed to services, you need to be looking at focusing on stock items that have high turnover. So stock that has high turnover, okay? Stock that has high turnover and stock items with high margins, okay? Look at your loss leaders in terms of your margins. What I mean by loss leaders, those that don't give you as high a profit margin, but that give you high volume, okay? Stock that gives you high volume. Those are the stock items you need to be looking at right now. And so loss leaders are something that's really, so if you are selling goods, that's something that you should be looking at right now, is your loss leaders. So those that give you a profit. It may not be the highest profit, but they do give you a profit, a gross profit, but they give you the highest volumes. That is where your focus should be going forward. The other thing that you need to be considering is revolutionizing your business model. Okay, revolutionizing your business model to come to terms with the new supply chain that will be in place. Okay, very important. Remember, this is the new norm, guys. There's going to be changes. Now it's about understanding and being able to move your business in such a way that meets the needs of your new supply chain, that meets the needs of the new demand. And this is what will get us through. Will get us through day zero, guys. One of the models that Henley Business School Africa has brought into account in response to the challenges, to this uncertainty, has been this particular model. It's called the Stabilize, Assess, Pivot, Grow model. Okay, and so we're going to go into this a bit more in detail now. So stabilize, assess, pivot, and grow. What do I mean by stabilize? So in our stabilizing, the first thing that we need to be looking at is we need to be considering our macro economy or our macro environment. Okay, what do we mean by macro environment, guys? We need to be looking at the South African economy at large, okay, and understanding right now what's happening in terms of the economy. And then you may be saying, okay, but that may not impact on our business. Yes, surely it will impact on your business. Because if you're into government work and government spend has decreased because money has moved around in terms of COVID, this will impact on your business, okay? So don't think that you are immune to this, okay? The other thing that you need to look at is to consider the other sectors and trends in your industry, other industry sector and trends. What is happening in the industry? So in South Africa at the moment, obviously everybody in your industry may be on lockdown, but start looking globally as to what are the trends and industries globally in terms of your industry sector. And then secondly, to be looking at the industry sectors within your industry and seeing what big business and how big business is responding to this. We can often take a leaf out of big business right now. So very importantly is to begin to see what is big business doing and start mirroring what big business is doing. Okay. In terms of assessing right now, we need to be looking at obviously our agility and flexibility. Okay, agility, flexibility. Now, the one model that Henley looks at is they pretty much look at the 4 quadrants right now. So where we're looking at agility and our implementation of the agility. So the one thing is being flexible, and the important thing is about the implementation of our change. Okay, that is your agility axis, which is really on the y-axis, and then on your x-axis is your mental resolve. So mental resolve, okay, mental resolve is how are we have we made peace with the current situation? Okay, so with COVID-19, we've now had to change. Are we at peace with our change? Are we at peace, or aren't we at peace with it? So our mental resolve in terms of the change. So quadrant 1 looks at what they call the rocking chair, where from a mental resolve, we're high on the mental resolve axis. Okay, so we're pretty much at peace with this change, but we're not prepared to make any changes. And so what you'll find there is because of that, that is what they call the rocking chair, where we're moving to and fro. So we're accepting, but we're not prepared to make any change. That's the rocking chair quadrant. Quadrant 2 is where we are high on resolve, mental resolve, okay? So we've come to terms with the change, and we're also high on agility. So we prepared to make the change, okay? This is the quadrant where we now will see reinvention happening. So you as a leader need to understand yourselves, understand where you are right now, okay? And be real with yourself. You know, we spoke about authenticity. Be real with yourself in terms of your ability to change, okay? Or you're having peace with the change. And some days will be better than others, okay? But on average, we need to be moving forward. Then we've obviously got quadrant 3, where this mental resolve, we are, you know what, we're not happy about this change, and we're not prepared to make the change. And so we're just going to have this pity party, and we're going to be in a position whereby we're not moving forward because you know what, we prefer yesterday. Yes, you know, the past was the best, and that, you know, we're going to do things the way it happened in the past. And that's where stagnation comes in, guys. And that's a risky place to be in. It's a risky place for your business and for the sustainability of your business. It's a risky place to be. Then there's quadrant 4, where we're low on the mental resolve. So, you know, we're not accepting this change. We're not at peace. So we're not at peace with this change. You know what? We're going to make the change. We're happy to make the change, but we're not really happy. We're not really happy to make the change. We're not at peace with this. And this is where you'll be sitting in quadrant 4. That's also not a good place to be, guys. Right now, as a leader, you need to be striving to get to quadrant 2. Striving, no matter where you find yourself right now, strive to get to quadrant 2. That's the quadrant that you need to be in, where you're prepared to be flexible, and you have peace of mind in terms of your flexibility. Okay, the next is pivoting, okay? In pivoting, that's now when we're starting to grow our business. That's why we're starting to take off, okay? But in pivoting, really our focus should be on value creation. Very important. On value creation and building strong relationships, okay? What you generally find, if you've been in business for a very short while, obviously it takes time to build relationships. But guys, now is the time that you need to be focusing a lot of your effort on building stronger relationships. Stronger relationships with all stakeholders, be it your banks, stronger relationships with consultants, stronger relationships with SARS, stronger relationships right now. And as we do this, as we focus on value creation, in other words, where we're obsessing about the value that we can add to our customer and what they want to see. So as we obsess on this, we'll find that now we'll not only be an SMME with high impact, but we will be an SMME that leaves a legacy. Okay? So way beyond us and way beyond once we hand our businesses over, there'll always be the legacy of that business. Okay? That it created value, for one, and two, that it builds strong relationships. as we begin to grow, we must ensure that we grow from a leadership perspective, okay? As we grow from a leadership perspective, remember that there's so much uncertainty right now, but we need to be striving to create certainty. So in a webinar I watched yesterday, one of the things in creating certainty, I'm going to show you and I hope today we're going to be a lot more successful than last week. I'm going to show you a clip of how the Navy SEALs do it and how they create the certainty, even though they are in extreme uncertain circumstances. And secondly, we need to be growing our processes, and third, our technology. But yeah, so we'll be showing you the clip just now as to how the Navy SEALs do it. Okay, as leadership, you know. Okay, I think let's move on to the clip so that I can show you just kind of how from a clip perspective, from a Navy SEALs perspective, how they address uncertainty and how they get through difficult times as leaders. Okay, so I'm just going to stop this for now. Okay, and then I'm going to move on to. Let's just have a look here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we share the screen. Okay, there's a Navy clip seal there, and we're going to share it on the sound and optimize the screen. I'm going to share that. Okay, let's just make that big for now. And here we go. Okay, so now we're just going to head back to our sorry. Okay, let's just head back to where we were. Okay, so just in terms of leadership, we can all see that. Okay, so just some closing nuggets, everyone. I think we pretty much about almost halfway. Almost 30 minutes. I was hoping to end this, but earlier than last time. So just in terms of some of the closing nuggets from a leadership perspective, so we must. The first thing I'm going to leave with you is not to be managed by the situation, but to manage the situation. Consider your circles of influence and your circles of concern. Obviously, circles of influence is where you have direct control over something. If you have direct controls over something, then that is where you need to be focusing right now. Circles of concern is often where, like COVID-19 was something we don't have control over. And so often we can spend all our energy in the things that we don't have control over. Right now, you need to be focused on the things that you do have control over. The second nugget to leave with you is don't focus on the past, but spend your time building the future, taking into consideration your present situation. Okay? So don't focus on the past, build the future, but consider your present situation. I mentioned this last week. Reconsider your business SWOT, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. Guys, during this time, there are significant opportunities that we should be looking at right now. As a matter of interest, the 1928 depression, most million and billionaires were created during that time than ever before. Guys, COVID-19 is a walk in the park is going to be a walk in the park compared to the 1928 depression. They say it's going to be much worse. So now's the time that we need to be looking at opportunities, guys. 4, consider your risk board. Okay, so what are your risks? These are all the things that will prevent you from meeting your goals and objectives. So look at these risks, identify these risks, and look at measures that you can put into place to mitigate these risks in your business. Okay, so do that upfront. You know, as SMME owners, the one thing we're not good at is putting stuff down on paper. Now is the time that we should be having a book and putting stuff down on paper daily. Setting your goals. Remember to set your goals, okay? So as we saw the Navy SEALs, they set short-term goals, okay? As you can see, they would set, it's about pretty much during uncertain times, things will change, but it's about setting the small goals right now, okay? And once you've achieved those small goals, is to celebrate your wins. So not to focus on the negative, but to celebrate the wins in terms of those goals. So on a daily basis, put down your goals, make your goals make daily goals, okay? What you should really be doing as business owners right now, setting daily goals right now, setting weekly goals, setting monthly goals. So as the president begins to speak tonight, these goals may change because things may shift, okay? But make sure that you set your goals, write them down, okay? And as you do this, when you begin to achieve, celebrate your wins. The second bit of closing nuggets that I want to share with you is that we're going to head into a transition period. We heard the president speaking the other night about a risk-based transitioning in terms of the release of the lockdown. So what may this look like? You know, I've seen something on the group earlier today whereby you'll see industries that are at high risk of spreading the virus, and then you see industries where they're at low risk of spreading the virus. So those industries where they're at low risk of spreading the virus, the likelihood is that they will start releasing those industries back into the swing of things. Those that are still high risk, like tourism, like entertainment, you know, like your restaurants, guys, that's probably not going to happen just yet. If you are falling into that category, or if you have clients that fall into that category right now, you need to factor that into account, okay? Very important, factor that into account as to how you're going to adjust your business model for those kind of clients. And if you are in that kind of category, is to spend your time with innovation right now, innovating, looking at new ideas. So if,
Mario,
a typical example, I had a call last week from a lady down in Durban who asked, you know, she's in a conferencing, you know, she handles conferencing, okay? So conferencing right now, because everybody will be living in bubbles for the next 12 months, the likelihood is that conferencing is not going to happen right now. Tourism is not going to happen right now in South Africa. Pretty much, you know, with our borders being closed 12 to 18 months, it's not going to be happening. But now we need to be adjusting our business models accordingly. And my advice I said to the lady last week was that one element of her business was in catering. And my recommendation to her was, why don't you consider online orders? Why don't you consider an online presence in terms of a delivery service beyond day zero, where you can offer your catering service and you deliver to corporates, okay? Particularly you have an existing client base. So make use of your existing client base to cross-sell within this new innovative way. That is the one way. The other thing to look at is potentially online cooking school. Use the digital platform. Whatever digital platforms you have, make use of them. If you don't have any, invest in digital platforms. Okay. The second thing that we really need to bear in mind as we go forward in terms of at day zero is that we remember now the lockdown would have lifted. The important thing is that health and safety is going to become a critical element in your business. Critical, and I can't emphasize this anymore. Critical. Okay, because if there is a
Sorry, Mario, could you just unshare your slide and reshare it, please? The last two slides have been blurred. People can't read them.
Okay.
Just when you share, check the little box that says make it specific, the second little block along. The first one you ticked about the sound, the other one so that it optimizes it for the Zoom, please, if you don't mind.
Okay. So optimize the screen sharing for the video, not for the Zoom, eh? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll do. Is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Great
Could you
stuff.
just go back one screen so people can just see if they need to take a picture and then come back to the screen?
Okay, we'll do. Thank you, Melly. Okay, we're just going to move forward. Just in transition periods right now. Okay, so in our transition period right now, okay, we need to ensure staff awareness. So we need to communicate regularly and update our policies and procedures timelessly. Bear in mind that if you have an infection in your business, on-site in your business, the Department of Health or the Department of Labor can come and shut you down, which will be catastrophic for your business. So before day zero even comes, next week, let's spend time on our health and safety, on looking at health and safety policies, health and safety procedures, start developing documentation around this. If you're needing assistance around this, give us a shout. We're willing to assist. The second thing we need to ensure is that our staff have adequate PPE that will not expose them to the virus. So that is something that we need to be working on before, not when we start on the first day. Now we begin looking for PPE for our staff. That's not going to work. Let's begin looking at let's look at PPE now. In terms of hand sanitizer, in terms of gloves. Let's look at preventative measures right now. So that's the third thing. Look at preventative measures. Look at touchless thermometers, hand sanitizers. Those are the kind of things that we need to be looking at in our business. The fourth thing, record keeping is very important, because one of the things that the Department of Health and Department of Labor will be looking at when they come and visit you is record keeping around your employees, record keeping around your customers. Okay, so make sure that your documentation is in place. Okay, we can't be making excuses we don't know. And I know that some of us are really not good at admin, but make sure that we have our records in place. The other thing that we need to ensure is that once we are permitted to start operating, or when there's a release, the important things that we need to get our permits into place. Get your permits, get your staff letters into place, so that you can hit the ground running. Okay, very importantly. Okay, so now we at the question and answers part of the session. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. So there we go. Let's just look at questions that we have. Okay, so if there's any questions, now's the time. So we can either can you just put your questions on the question and answers?
No questions as yet, Mario.
Okay, so it appears that we pretty much, nobody has any questions. Okay, as and when things begin to change, guys, I know that, okay, so Warren Moulton has raised a hand. Warren Moulton, I'm gonna see if I can't unmute you, Warren Moulton. Sorry, I'm just gonna try and unmute you.
Sorry, Warren is asking, will all businesses need to have permits, Mario?
Okay, so right now, we don't know. Right now, things are changing day by day, Melly. As we saw that prior to Warren, prior to the last, so there was the last lockdown period, which would have ended on the 17th of April. There was one set of permits, and then you saw we had to then reapply for a second set of permits. Now, as and when they begin to open industry, we're not sure whether at that point in time whether they'll require permits from us. But stay close to my WhatsApp group. It will be shared on the WhatsApp group with you. I hope we've answered your question. Any more questions? What are the staff letters all about? Okay, so staff letters, right now, if you're an essential services provider, you obviously have to have a permit. Okay, and the permit you get off the CIPC website. If you have staff that work for you, in order for the staff to be mobile and get between home and work, they have to have a letter, okay? They have to have a letter that, sorry, you as an employer have to have a letter to the staff on your letterhead with your company stamp, telling the authorities that they are permitted to go to work, so to speak. Warren, I'll come back to you. So Warren wants to ask a question. So let's just unmute Warren quickly. Here we go, Warren, you're unmuted.
Hi, Mario, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Warren.
Okay, quick one, man. It's something that I posed last week just before we closed, but I think we had run out of time. Obviously, with all the assistance that's coming forward from governments and banks in the form of loans and the rest of it. So, a question that I wanted to ask, obviously, right now, before lockdown, we had obviously, like, well, for in instance, our business environment, we had bought, outlaid money to spares accounts and so on and so forth, so we've got quite a bit of things that we still have to pay back over and above, monthly rental, and obviously your normal month-to-month commitments that are kind of sitting dormant that still have to be paid, but there's right now no money coming in for that to be paid. So when it comes to us applying for government assistance, do we apply, what would be the best way forward? Would that be to apply for financing to help us from sort of day zero going forward, or do we kind of apply for financing from day zero forward, plus consolidating all what we are currently sitting with? What is the best model around that?
Warren, I think right now, I think the one thing I need to make mention to you is that you must understand that, remember that funding that they're referring to is really a loan. So that
Yes.
also will become repayable in the future. Okay.
Yes.
So, however, though, I mean, they're offering great interest rates on those loans. So, I mean, some of the interest rates are something like prime minus 5%. Those are kind of favorable interest rates. Now, the president 2 days ago mentioned this additional funding that will be given. My understanding right now, as we stand, is that it's going to be coming through the major banks. And I shared something on my group yesterday regarding Nedbank have started.
Correct.
They will start the application process on the 28th of April. So my thing to you is potentially speak to your bankers regarding that additional funding, Warren. if you are looking at additional funding, speak to your bankers regarding that additional funding.
Okay.
Okay. Merle posed a question regarding what kind of business support is the government currently offering in terms of tax breaks. Okay, so in short, Merle, what the one tax break is the president spoke about is the 35%. So deferring payment of PAYE. What does that mean? It means that if you are an employer and you have staff, you and your staff are employed by the company, and every month you pay PAYE over to SARS, the president has said that you can delay 35% of that for the next 4 months. Okay? Bear in mind, that is not free money. It's going to sit as a liability on your books, and you're going to be owing that in 4 months' time. Okay? That is the first thing. The second thing, obviously, in terms of tax breaks, they're obviously saying all your provisional tax, you can pay a portion of that now and pay the balance at a later stage. Okay? But what I'm going to do is I have a slide that I had sent out a couple of weeks ago, just in terms of the tax breaks and kind of the government funding out there. I'll put that onto the same WhatsApp group again, so that you can read through that. The next question I've got here is from Keith. Keith, sorry, I just want to do something quickly. One thing I just like to do quickly. Okay, so just an answer from Keith is regarding rent. I understand that landlords have responsibilities, but we legally required to pay rent for the month of April. Can something be worked out? Are we protected or covered in any way? The short answer to that is no, Keith. You're not covered in any way. But the long answer to that is that if you have, this is where I speak about relationships right now and building of relationships. You need to be chatting to your landlord right now about a possibility of meeting him halfway, or either deferring your rental or meeting him halfway, in terms of 50-50 split or something. But right now, from a legal perspective, provided you don't have the force majeure clause in your lease agreement, no, you don't have a legal background. Okay. Calvin Parsons, are we allowed to not pay employees at the end of April? Do we need to give notice to them that we're not paying? Calvin, I shared something on my group from Redfern and Finlay attorneys, and the quick answer to that is no. The short answer to that is no. You don't have to pay them at the end of April. Okay, you don't have to pay them at the end of April. But from a humanity perspective, when you open your business, you must understand that you may have, from a staff morale perspective, you may have to deal with staff morale issues. Now, what you could do potentially is, that is why TERS is available to you. And you should look at so if you're not going to pay your staff at the end of April, look at applying for TERS and putting them onto TERS and letting the UIF, letting the Unemployment Insurance Fund pay them. We've had some good report. We've obviously had several. We've been doing many cases regarding this TERS, and one of the cases, we applied for TERS, and 5 days later, the company was paid. Was paid in order to pay the employees. So there's been some good responses from TERS, but just bear in mind that right now the best way to deal with TERS is online. So don't even look at the emailing option. That doesn't work. Okay. The next question was from Merle. Merle speaks about many countries are using helicopter type initiatives which have far better success than the current grant application process. The existing initiatives are cumbersome and are not offering real-time relief. What is your experience with the success of these applications? Mel, just in terms of the applications that we've processed so far, from a funding perspective, it hasn't been good. It hasn't been good. It's been very slow. And in the president's address on Tuesday night, he confirmed this. He confirmed that this is the one area that government hasn't been good at. But from a UIF, look, we've had mixed feedback from the UIF TERS perspective. Okay, so yes, one client is 5 days, but the maximum they can take is up to 30 working days. So yeah, right now, that is the one thing, is that policy is being developed, but there is a lag right now, guys. There is a lag right now. Thank you for your question, Mo. Any more questions? If there's no more questions, I'm going to leave you with the saying. It's our last saying, and I'm going to leave you with the saying, guys. Okay, hope is seeing light in spite of being surrounded by darkness. Okay, right now we can choose to see the darkness, we can choose to be negative, or we can remain hopeful. And I think hope is really going to see us through this time. So I'd like to, from myself and my team at ELO Consulting, we'd like to thank you for joining us tonight in our webinar. Please share your feedback with us. I think we have a post-webinar survey running. Please share your feedback with us, or just share it on WhatsApp with us. We'd really like to get to hear, as to your feedback, and also just to some of the things that you'd like to see in the next webinar. Some of the things that you'd like us to cover in the next webinar. Just share it with us. And then from my side, thank you, Melly. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you guys for your support. And I look forward to seeing you guys in our next webinar next Thursday. So today is the 23rd. So we're looking at having our next webinar on Thursday, the 30th of April at 5 p.m. Okay, so communication will be going out regarding that. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you, Melly.